Today we're going to be talking again about everybody's favorite health influencer, Gary Brecka. And this is an interesting topic because we will be covering his thoughts on GLP-1 agonists, which is a very hot topic in obesity medicine right now. And I've heard a lot of conflicting things that he says about these medications and use of these medications. And I don't think people really understand what his protocol is with his patients in his 10X health system. And I know a lot are very curious. He makes a lot of crazy claims, to be honest. Sometimes he's makes some claims that are true. Other times, let's say we're making these videos to hopefully address what is true and what is not, to better educate the masses. So without further ado, let's react to Gary Brecka on the Full Send podcast, where this topic actually comes up in the context of him working with a particular celebrity and what they will be doing to help him lose weight.
Where you're actually in a deep sleep.
How is it working with Jelly Roll? We had him on the pod.
Oh, dude, he's awesome, man. He's first of all, I love his music.
Yeah.
And I love his story too.
Oh yeah.
Did you see his what was his CMAs?
CMA's.
Yeah.
Dude, he just hammered it and
Yeah.
like that 30-second speech.
He's an absolute fucking. That guy's an angel.
He said he's on cold
Dude,
showers.
he is an angel. And he's been public about working with me, and I'm
Yeah,
so
we talked about it on another
excited
episode.
to be. Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm so excited to be on this journey with him, and he's been very vulnerable about it too. He said, Gary, this is the first time that I felt like my weight is killing me, and I feel like that guy's got a real message for the world. If you really listen to the lyrics in his songs, man, it is deep.
It's crazy.
And you,
Yeah, first off, Jelly Roll is a great performer, and the fact that he's sharing his health journey is awesome. I hope he does amazing. I do think that the celebrities that work with Gary, some of them definitely get results for sure, and we'll talk about maybe why that actually is as we go through this video. But it's a very big endorsement of him, and that's why it's important to make these videos, because celebrities, better or for worse, influence the masses. And so if a celebrity vouches for someone, that's going to carry a lot of weight. And what's interesting even more is sometimes celebrities, because they always want what's perceived as the best or the fanciest, a lot of times go outside of the realms of traditional medicine, which I'm not saying there isn't a place for it. There is. But if you have a charlatan or you have someone who just doesn't know what they're talking about, that can eventually become a problem.
and you know that those lyrics are coming from a story that is very visceral, very authentic, very real. So, this is what I mean about loving what I do, not feeling like I work a day in my life. You get to meet great humans like that and be a part of their journey. So we're gonna strip about 250 pounds off of him in the next.
And how long you think?
In the next 12 to 14 months.
250.
250 pounds. He weighed in at 494.
Yeah, that's a lot of weight in 12 months. I mean, 250 pounds, if you think about it, that's over 20 pounds a month if you're doing it in 12 months. I don't like setting such a concrete, even the way he says it, like, we're going to strip 250 pounds off. I'm like, first of all, you can't make a claim like that. Secondly, the person who is doing the weight loss is the one who's losing the weight. You're not stripping it off him. He is going to have to work hard to, and maybe with the help of different medications or protocols, to get that weight off. But the credit goes to the patient. And 250 in a year, it's possible, but that is a lot of weight, and you don't always want to lose weight so rapidly. But with that said, it can be done, especially we do see that type of weight loss with some of the new GLP-1 medications, which we'll get into in a little bit in this video. But to lose, I don't know if that's 50% of his body fat, but I mean, 50% of his weight in general, but that seems like a lot in 1 year.
250 in a year.
Yeah, he's
there any
weighed. I just did. I just did 105 pounds on the next podcast that I'm launching at the Ultimate Human is a bookie from Vegas that we stripped 105 pounds off of him, and not an ounce of lean muscle. 105 pounds off of him.
Okay, first off, not an ounce of lean muscle. I'm a little skeptical of that claim. And also, I don't like how he says we stripped it off, like the medical team did it. The patient did that work. And whether he had assistance or not, the credit goes to the patient.
In 6 months.
Why does
Almost
that,
to the
what?
day.
Steiny, lead into your favorite drug question.
I'm going to.
Yeah.
Are we going back to cocaine and fentanyl?
No.
No, that's not.
Because I wanted to leave that one in the beginning of the podcast.
Well, no, I don't know.
Because by the way, those are great weight loss
And that's
drugs
not
with the side
my
effects
favorite.
death.
I don't know why you assume that either.
I'm just. I don't know.
No
I've-
experience with any of that in the 2024. But
2024.
no, but
Well, technically.
So wow, Steiny really lost a lot of weight there.
After January
Didn't
1st.
eat for a month.
technically.
yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
No, but
from the second on.
yeah.
Okay, so that's good. So you've been It's over for 6 days. That's awesome. You're on a run.
You gotta start somewhere, dude.
Yeah.
No, but there's this new phase, like, and from the outside looking in, I don't really know anyone on it, but you see it a lot. Like, people are now taking Ozempic for just to lose weight.
Yeah.
For me, and I look at that, like, you talk about a guy who's gonna lose 250. Well, you said 250 in a year. That just sounds like it can't be healthy for you.
It actually,
and I'm not saying Ozempic is involved, but
it actually is not. And I'll tell you exactly what's involved, but it actually is not. You really have to, when you lose that much weight, you have to focus on detox pathways.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. This is what drives me a little nuts about Gary. Like, the detox pathways. What is he talking about? I guess we're gonna find out. But like, that's not what you have to focus on when you're losing a lot of weight. When you're losing a lot of weight, what you need to focus on is not losing weight too quickly, having enough protein to maintain as much muscle mass as possible, and strength training. That's like simple is better. And that's really what you have to focus on. If you get enough protein intake and you're getting micronutrients and your macronutrients in, then you can lose large amounts of weight. Generally, you don't want to be losing more than like 1 to 2 pounds a week though. So if you think about it, let's say 2 pounds a week, that's really going to be 8 pounds a month, where it sounds like with Jelly Roll, they're going to be going for over 20 pounds a month. Now, when you have a lot of weight to lose, you can lose a lot more weight in the beginning, but that will taper off over time, which is why I like to say 250 in a year. I'm not saying it can't be done, but
when you lose that much weight, you have to focus on detox pathways, meaning you have the same number of fat cells now as you did the day you were born. It's a really hard concept for people to understand that when I came out of the womb, I have the same number of fat cells as I do now, because fat doesn't increase or decrease in number, they increase or decrease.
well, it's probably hard for them to understand because it's not true, Gary. Okay, we didn't make it more than 5 seconds without me having to pause the video again, so I apologize, but we have to address the claims that are incorrect. So I understand where he's probably getting this from. As you age, you make less new adipocytes, which are fat cells. So once you get to about your mid-20s, you may not be making many more fat cells, and then when you gain fat, it's the size of those cells that are increasing. But you make more fat cells, especially in the early years of your life, and a typical person is going to have 25 to 35 billion fat cells. Now, the reason it's important to also prevent obesity early on in life is because if you are obese when you're a child, which is pediatric obesity, then you can actually be making more of those fat cells, which then have effects later on in life, make it harder to lose weight, make it more likely that you're going to be obese later on in life. And so you can still lose weight later on in life, even if you have more of these overall fat cells. But that's why it's important to get control of your weight early on if you can. But this is not true. You don't only have the same amount of fat cells than what you're born with. You do actually make more adipocytes as you go on, and then it does taper off somewhere around your 20s, mid-20s.
I came out of the womb, I have the same number of fat cells as I do now, because fat doesn't increase or decrease in number, they increase or decrease in size, right? I mean, the cells turn over, but they increase or decrease in size. So your fat cells get larger and larger and larger. So if you've been, heavy and you progress to obesity over a prolonged period of time, you know what's in those fat cells? Pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, drugs you've done, chemicals, synthetics.
You're going to have to show me the study of pesticides in your fat cells. What? That's a new claim. That one might take the cake on all claims that he's made. Okay, if you have a study that shows that, please let me know.
I came out of the womb, I have the same number of fat cells as I do now, because fat doesn't increase or decrease in number, they increase or decrease in size, right? I mean, the cells turn over, but they increase or decrease in size. So your fat cells get larger and larger and larger. So if you've been, heavy and you progress to obesity over a prolonged period of time, you know what's in those fat cells? Pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, drugs you've done, chemicals, synthetics, histamines, all kinds of inflammatory factors. So when that cell starts to shrink again and turn into energy, it's dumping that shit back into the bloodstream.
I don't know what he's talking about. You're not storing large amounts of pesticides in your fat cells. Can you maybe, if there's some remnants in your fat cells, maybe, and the evidence on that is pretty weak. Fat cells will store a lot of things, but when you're losing fat, you're using that as ATP. You're not dumping all of these things into your blood like it's toxic and it's going to be bad for you. I promise you don't need to worry about losing weight because it's going to toxify your blood.
The things we're focusing on with him is, he's traveling with a nurse now, so he's doing weekly IVs, something called glutathione. He does a topical glutathione spray on his skin to help his body, with detox pathways. He's taking an activated charcoal for the gut so that you can actually sop up toxins in the gut, because you can't just dump all of those toxins right back into the bloodstream. They have to go somewhere. You think of when all that fat is coming off of the body, where's it going? It's going into the bloodstream.
No, it's not. It's being used up as energy with fatty oxidation. Your body's using the fat stores as energy. You're in a calorie deficit, so you're burning fat. It's not being dumped into the blood, and you really don't need supplements like glutathione and activated charcoal. There are many people that lose large amounts of fats that don't take these supplements, and guess what? They're completely fine. So that is not necessary when you're undergoing significant weight loss, even minor weight loss.
The urine, the stool, so it can make you really, really sick. So one of the things that I'm really focusing on with the clinical team and him is how do we get the toxins out of the body? Activated charcoal, glutathione, regular IVs. So you make sure that he's on a specific multivitamin. And in his case, you can use things like tirzepatide, which is Mounjaro, or semaglutide, which is Wegovy and Ozempic. The problem with those is that people are using them for vanity, right? And a third of the weight that you lose is lean body mass. And so
it's not true that a third of the weight you lose is from lean body mass specifically due to the tirzepatide or the semaglutide. Any significant weight loss, there will be a loss of muscle mass, and that's why it's important to hit your protein each day, as well as strength train and preserve and even hopefully grow some muscle. But when you're having significant weight loss, regardless of what it's from, whether it's from some special fad diet, it's from using GLP-1 medications, you're going to lose muscle mass if you're not putting in the work in the gym and doing strength training, as well as making sure you're getting enough protein in. So that's why that's one of the most important things to think about when you are taking these medications. Now, just to give a quick overview of the landscape. So the GLP-1 medications are really a revolutionary medication and can be helpful for a lot of people who have struggled with weight. They're also first approved in patients with diabetes. So you have semaglutide and tirzepatide. These are the active ingredients. Now, semaglutide has the branded name of Ozempic, which basically became the go-to name that people call everything with the GLP-1 agonist, but a lot of times most people are not actually on Ozempic. So that's approved for type 2 diabetes. You then have Wegovy, which is specifically approved for weight loss. It's also semaglutide. So it's technically the same thing, and you just have different dosing that you could titrate up patients on. Then you have tirzepatide, which is by Eli Lilly, and the two versions of that are Mounjaro, which is approved for type 2 diabetes, as well as now Zepbound, which is approved specifically for weight loss. If you have a BMI over 30 or a BMI of 27 plus certain comorbid conditions like dyslipidemia, hypertension, etc.
What happens is, when people drop weight so quickly, they're dropping a lot of muscle and a lot of lean body mass. So you have to protect it with a peptide. You have to be doing weight-bearing exercise. So you preserve the lean body mass and you lose the fat. I mean, when people say
you have to be doing strength training to preserve muscle mass, it's also important to say and eat enough protein, because a lot of people don't eat enough protein. You have to be very deliberate when you're on these medications, but you don't need another peptide to help preserve muscle. There's no indication for using other peptides. Also, I'm not sure if you realize is that the tirzepatide and semaglutide are peptides as well. But I think what he was referencing, I found another video. We'll take a look at it. He works for his clinic. I'm sure they partner with a compounding pharmacy, and they prescribe a lot of different peptides that are through compounding pharmacies. So I wonder how often he's getting the patients like Zepbound specifically or Mounjaro through Eli Lilly versus using their own compound pharmacy. But regardless, it looks like he actually uses other peptides in his protocol. So let's take a look at this video on the same topic.
It's not that I'm totally against these peptides. If you use these peptides, you have to be in a weight training program. So you have to be doing resistance training, because a third of the weight that you lose, as much as half of the weight that you lose in some of the studies, is lean body mass. So if you're taking a semaglutide or tirzepatide, you want to make sure that you're also on our clinical team would put you on a peptide, a growth hormone peptide like sermorelin, hypomorelin, to muscle protect, and then also make sure that you're on a good strength training regimen, because just taking these, you don't get to spot remove fat. And so what happens is you start to.
So that's true. You don't get to spot remove fat. I agree with the strength training, but you don't need these other peptides in combination. There's no current medical guidelines that recommend, if you're going to use, let's say, tirzepatide for weight loss, that you also need to use sermorelin, which is a GHRH analog, so growth hormone releasing hormone. Essentially, this peptide allows your body to make more GH, more growth hormone, which will help build muscle. But that's like, now you're really introduced, you're getting kind of into the world of like anabolics, and I don't think that's necessary. Can you do it? Can you see results from it? You can, but like if you go to any physician that works in the field of obesity medicine, is board certified in obesity medicine, which is actually something I'm working on towards right now, they're not going to couple this with using a GLP-1 agonist, or in the case of tirzepatide, it's actually a GLP-1 GIP double agonist. So semaglutide is just GLP-1 receptor agonist. Then you have tirzepatide, which is GLP and GIP. And then you also have new clinical research that's currently on its way. There's retatrutide, which is actually a triple agonist, which is going to be acting on the glucagon receptors as well. So really interesting results with that, which maybe we'll make a video on. But it seems like we're kind of starting to get an idea of what Gary's stack is, his protocol with patients is. And some of it, there's really not great evidence behind, but it probably goes into the very expensive programs that he sells to these celebrities. So they're going to be doing activated charcoal, glutathione injections, IVs. Additionally, they're pairing the tirzepatide with these growth hormone stimulating analogs like sermorelin.
They want to lose weight. What they really mean is, I want to lose fat.
Yeah.
Nobody means I want to lose muscle. I want to lose ligaments, tendons, bones. I want to demineralize my bones. I just want to lose fat. Right? That's what I want to lose. And so the problem with a lot of these drugs is, if you just start injecting Ozempic, which is semaglutide, then you're not just losing fat, right? And you're slowing gastric emptying, you're shutting down the gut. And so my personal preference is tirzepatide. In side-by-side clinical trials, it actually did better than Ozempic, than semaglutide at weight loss. But
I do agree with that. I like tirzepatide better as well. There is evidence that there's more weight reduction with the tirzepatide and less side effects. But in the world we live in, the reality is insurance and insurance coverage is going to play a big role. So if you can get the semaglutide versions, right, the Ozempic or Wegovy covered, but you can't get Mounjaro or Zepbound, you may start with the semaglutide unless you could pay cash. Eli Lilly did come out with a good decent cash option for Zepbound now, which is going to be slightly more expensive than the compounding pharmacies, which actually really are in this gray zone of if they're even allowed to make tirzepatide anymore. But that's another topic for another day.
But you need to be taking peptides, in my opinion. I can't get medical advice, but I would be on a peptide.
I like how he says that now to stay out of liability, but you don't need to be taking peptides. Also, you already are taking peptides. I'm not sure if he's getting the concept that they are peptides themselves, tirzepatide and semaglutide. But yeah, it sounds like they do these growth hormone analogs as well in their protocol.
I would be on something to sop up toxins in the gut, like glutathione and activated charcoal, and I would be weight training for sure. I just had
that's our one point of agreement.
Dr.
Me and Gary, we agree. Not a lot, but on that we agree. Weight training, super important when you're taking these medicines or doing anything that involves significant weight loss.
Gabrielle Lyon she's like the muscle queen. She wrote a book called Forever Strong, talking about how muscle is our metabolic currency. If you want to live a long time, lift heavy weight. And we talked about Ozempic and these weight loss drugs. You have to be doing weight bearing exercise when you're on those. Or you'll just become skinny fat, right?
Yeah. Well, they also say once you get off it, your metabolism comes back up and you gain that weight right back.
Well, that's not true if you're smart about how you titrate on and how you titrate off of these things, right? I mean, some of those were meant to be on permanently, right? I mean, that seems outlandish to me, that you would be on a permanent, what's called a GLP-1 and GDP inhibitor, because now you're shutting down the body's natural way of
GDP, and I think they're GLP-1 GIP agonists. I'm not sure what he means by that.
Accomplishing those things. But for people that where weight is a health risk, morbidly obese, type 2 diabetics, these can be life-saving for them. You just got to remember that you don't use them by themselves, right? Help them detox weight-bearing exercise, peptides so they don't lose lean muscle mass, get them to a targeted weight, and then safely titrate off of those things. That's what my clinical team does. I don't think that we have anyone that I've seen our physicians put somebody on that stays on it permanently.
Because a lot of
See, I actually bet you that's not true. I mean, I hope it's not true, because for some people, they will require maintenance dose ongoing. And and this is scary for people, right? And this is a big stigma in the current landscape of using these medications is, oh, well, you have to be on them ongoing. But we don't treat other medications like we do these GLP-1 agonists, which we sort of should, because, for example, let's say you have high blood pressure and now you're taking this medication. A lot of people end up on that same medication for the rest of their life and they don't really think twice about it. But if you have obesity, which is also a disease, and we have these amazing medications that are essentially in some cases curing obesity, well, why wouldn't you want to stay on it? The benefits of not being obese are going to way outdo the side effects of the medication, assuming you're responding overall well, like majority of people do to the medications. And there isn't long-term data, like we don't have the data 30, 50 years out, but these are naturally occurring peptides in your body to begin with. And so there's a good evidence to say that and I'm not making this claim because we don't know, we need the research, but overall, the benefits will way outweigh the risks of being obese or morbidly obese for decades. And so some people can titrate off. The studies do show that a lot of people will start to slowly regain their weight. And so then you could kind of monitor. If you come off it, you try to titrate off, and then you're starting to regain that weight, well, maybe you go back on a maintenance dose. A lot of people say they feel amazing on it. The food noise that they're always stressed and have anxiety about. Food noise is not a medical term, but that's a big term in the GLP-1 community. It basically like that idea that you're always thinking about when's your next meal? What are you going to eat? Did you eat too much? You're already hungry. Sometimes you're not even hungry, but you just want to eat for comfort. A lot of that goes away with people taking these medications. And so what's interesting overall in summary is that a lot of the benefits that people get from Gary Brecka's protocol, I could actually bet you attribute to using these medications. There's kind of this like allure of like all this other special sauce that he adds, the charcoal, the glutathione injections. For example, the video I made recently that went pretty viral where we're talking about Dana White, I talk about how like a lot of the benefits that Dana White got are because he lost so much weight. And so yes, his lipid profile improved, etc. It's not like there was this magic sauce. And we're seeing very similar results by patients that take these obesity medicine medications, these GLP-1 agonists. And so all the other stuff is kind of a little extra fluff that Gary does that I just don't think is necessary, but then it doesn't sound good. The celebrity's not going to want to just, go to your traditional obesity medicine doctor who's only going to prescribe the GLP-1, maybe the GLP-1 GIP double agonist tirzepatide, and talk about just strength training, getting your protein in, maybe a creatine supplement, but you don't need all the other extra stuff. And so also I know, like, for example, obviously people are putting on more muscle, like Dana White is TRT. I think it was mentioned in that previous video. In this case, it sounds like they give a lot of people these growth hormone analogs. And so overall, a lot of the benefits are from a few of the medications that work, but the whole protocol and stack itself, is it really necessary? I don't think so, especially given how much I have heard is being charged for some of these services.
a lot of people, I guess a lot of people online say it's like bad for you, but you're saying that in the proper way, dosed with other things, it's not bad for
There's a much greater risk if you're type 2 diabetic and you're morbidly obese. You have a greater risk of, from morbid obesity and diabetes than you do from the side effects of tirzepatide or semaglutide. But you want to just not take it in isolation. You can use those to have effective weight loss, and you can titrate off of those. I mean, I've seen my clinical team do this hundreds and hundreds of times. So I firsthand knowledge you can do it safely. But people,
I bet you not everyone's titrating off though. But if you can, great. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but some people will need it. Otherwise, those cravings are going to come back. They're going to start overeating. The food noise comes back. And so if they're happier and they're doing better on it, it's okay to stay on the medication.
people get on it and then they just stay on it. And then once they reach their targeted weight, they're still on it. Now the people are getting that Ozempic face, they call it, where it actually starts to eat the fat out of your face, and your face gets sunken, your eyes start to look really sunken. That's fat that's not coming back.
Well, I was going to say,
No, that's not what Ozempic face is from. The Ozempic face is from the rapid weight loss that can take place if you're using these medications and not eating enough protein, you're not getting enough overall calories. And so you do have to be deliberate when you're taking these medications about that. But the medications themselves don't take the fat away. What the medications do is make it easier to be in a calorie deficit because they slow the gastric emptying, so that makes you feel fuller quicker. And they also send signals to the hypothalamus and overall help with those hunger cravings. And so that's how the medications work. It's not gonna like take the fat away from your face if you're on a maintenance. Like the Ozempic phase comes from that initial like very rapid weight loss. If you slowly lost weight over time, you've been strength training, and now you're gonna take a maintenance dose, so you're just not gaining more weight, you're not start to regain weight, you're not gonna get Ozempic phase.
I'm gonna say, like, I know someone who was on it and he started to look like almost malnourished because it was like, dude, you need to slow down on that.
Yeah.
They lose weight so fast, but they get too tiny.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna eat fat everywhere.
What nutrient deficiency do you
See, it doesn't eat fat everywhere. It's the calorie deficit that helps you lose weight. In this case, the person who Steiny mentioned probably was not getting enough protein, overall calories, and just wasn't eating enough. And so in that case, you are malnourished and you're not getting proper micro and macronutrients. And so that is a concern. And that's why you need to take these medications under the supervision of a physician who knows what they're doing, and also work on dietary lifestyle changes, have a whole team around you is the best way to approach utilizing these medications. Okay, I think they switched topics here. So I hope that video was helpful and insightful. Some of what Gary says, I guess, is true, but a broken clock is right twice a day. A lot of it is just misinformation and extra fluff. And it's just like, the problem is, his name is so big now that I kind of have to make these videos because I want to also get good quality information to the masses. And so if you like these videos, it would mean the world to me if you could subscribe to the channel, share them. I'm really going to start putting out more videos addressing misinformation in the whole health and wellness space. I really enjoy making these, and so it motivates me a lot to see you guys subscribe and comment below. I think if you want to see more videos like this, I think this podcast, I could basically break down 6 other topics just from this podcast alone. So maybe we'll do that, but let me know what you think. Curious to hear your questions below, and I will see you in the next video.